This is the Doubtless Podcast, here to help you change from a state of doubt and insecurity towards a more calm, confident, and doubtless self. I'm your host, coach and psychologist Julian, and my guests are remarkable, ambitious humans who share their stories of doubtful moments, of their insecurities, and how that shaped their successes today. Today's guest is Marcos ChaCha Campos, and I would like to describe him in a way that he is a very unique person, that he is jumping out from a group of people and has incredible depth in the way he speaks and the way he is as a person. And you'll notice why. He describes himself as a tricultural kid. And he was raised in the Chinese Baptist church on the border of Texas and Mexico. And he studied international finance, taught himself programming in the 80s, and taught meditation over 3 decades. He started working as a digital nomad in 1993 when that didn't even exist. He's also a yogi and a musician. And now he works at AMD designing microchips. How crazy, how complex, how intriguing is this person? And I get to talk to him about the depth of the human experience, about doubt, about difficulties, and how to create a life that's worth living. Join me in today's episode with ChaCha. I have been looking forward to our conversation for a very long time. We've been trying to schedule it for quite a while, and now it's finally happening. And what we just did right before the recording was just a moment of presence, of mindfulness, you could call it, or just reconnecting with yourself. And I remember scrolling down your Instagram feed. There's a thing you do or you did, which is called 20 seconds of Zen. And I just paused, and every single one you posted, I was like, okay, thank you. Thank you for this moment of reconnection. What prompted you to just post that?
That's interesting that you went back in that. So I know that you do your research, and I hadn't thought about that for, well, I guess a few years. I don't know what prompted that specifically, but at the time, actually, I was getting my yoga certification, a 200-hour yoga teacher certification here in Austin, Texas. And the other day, I was actually listening to a lecture by Ram Dass. In the lecture, which he's giving to a group of people, he says, Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, Thich Nhat Hanh was also a great teacher of mine, and in reading him, would say, just take 3 breaths. In this lecture, Ram Dass says, okay, breath number 1. Breathe out everything and release whatever isn't serving you. And then breath number 2, connect with your higher source. And then, okay, you might be continuing breathing. Don't worry, you don't need to do this all in 3 breaths, right? You don't need to become obsessive compulsive about the 3 breaths. Let's just focus, though, that these 3 steps of taking big breaths then lead to big breath number 3. And it's on your own time. It's like he says, we're on the bus and there are streets going by. We don't have to turn at every street, but we're waiting for the big street. We're still on the bus. The next big street is, now that you're connected to a source greater than yourself, let yourself expand in your consciousness. And that 3 breaths, if you practice that and nothing else really, then I believe that what you do is you reset a little bit of your neurology. And I can give you another example of how important resetting the neurology is or using your breath to reset your nervous system is. I played poker a bit in my past, and there was one time I had, one of the very few times I won a big pot. There was a lot of chips on the table. It's a I was really excited. It probably wasn't a huge amount of money. I mean, it was maybe $200 or $300 on the table that I'm like pulling towards me and shit, right? But it's cash game and like a bunch of strangers. And like, oh my God, I'm an idiot at the table. What am I doing? I win this hand. And I was really happy with myself. When I reached out to grab the chips and my hand is trembling. And I'm shaking the chips and I can't even stack them because my hands are trembling. I'm so excited. I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? Like, I'm not, I'm happy. I'm fine. Like, it's just a normal hand. It wasn't like everybody was hooping and hollering. Okay, you won the hand. But it was the first big hand I'd ever won playing cash games many years ago. And I realized, oh, this is adrenaline. The the adrenaline, and I can't stack my chips, otherwise people will know that I'm a real newbie. And then just with my background in training, I said, okay, just all you have to do is like, I just, I I really didn't play the next two or three hands. I just took time to breathe, and then when I watched my hand, it was steady, and then my chip. That took maybe 20, 30 seconds to reset. But that's an example of the tools that you might put into your tool belt to help you deal with your body, your emotions, your nervous system. That's been of great interest of mine.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because when there's strong emotions coming up in various different situations, right? When you, I don't know, ask a partner out for a first date, when you play poker, when you have an exciting thing in front of you, and then these emotions can become so intense. It could be adrenaline, could be just fear, or any other like very overwhelming emotion. And one thing that dropped into my mind, what I was listening to recently, was the connection between the nervous system and money.
Oh, yeah,
And when
interesting.
you, yeah, and when you're feeling the fear constantly of not having enough money, or when there's just the fear of maybe also getting too much money, or feeling that you will get way out of your comfort zone, anything that your body is that you're doing that is out of your normal circumstances, out of your comfort zone, is creating such a physical response in you, which quite often might look like trembling, like breathing heavily, or just anything that dysregulates your nervous system. And so that's why those simple tools that you described are so applicable in so many different areas. And I was just caught really by this, knowing that when we want to expand and want to go into different areas, or when you have your first big hand in poker, something is shifting inside your body. And that's why it creates such a response.
Yeah,
And
when it
yeah,
comes to poker, I've taught a lot of people poker over the years. I love it because it's a great metaphor for many things. And also poker is understood around the world from the point of view that everybody understands generally how to play the game. Most everybody's had some experience of poker. So it's a great way to explain metaphors, because in poker, if you hang around with enough poker players, we get into very deep philosophical conversations about just the nature of reality based on poker, because there's the probability side of things. So there's things like risk management, there's state management, the body management, a lot of really top-notch poker players are really big on nutrition and exercise because they need to establish stamina of the mind. And if you play with enough poker players, you start talking about what's the longest session you ever had. The longest session I ever had was 36 hours without sleep, right? Just nonstop at the poker table. So, you need a lot of good state management to stay mentally alert for 36 hours straight. That was a rough one. I probably should have quit much earlier. Much earlier. It's not a good idea, by the way. No, not a suggested practice to play long sessions. But the thing about managing your state in the sense of poker as a metaphor, one, when I teach people, I make it very clear that a lot of people think that poker is a card game that you play with people, but it's actually a people game that's played with cards. And so one of the things poker has taught me is about people, really. And the more you learn about people, the more you learn about yourself, you know. And that kind of self-knowledge is what begins to give you the tools when you go out learning, the tools to, well, one, the self-awareness to realize the state that you're often in is one that you yourself are creating. We often think, right, oh, I'm public speaking. It's the public speaking. I'm about to step on the stage. I'm going to talk to, 2,000 people. I'm afraid of public speaking. And really the fear, though, it's inside of you, right? I mean, if you knew that you were walking onto an empty stage, you wouldn't have that. So it's all the mental construct that you have that is creating the feeling in your body. And just like you said, like you're going up to a person that you are really attracted to. I mean, it's amazing, right? If we go up to somebody that we don't care about and we're in a good mood, we can be our most charming selves because we don't care, right? And those are the people then who feel like, wow, that was a very pleasant interaction with that person. If we go up to somebody that we're really attracted to and we get tongue-tied and we represent our worst selves, or not, at least not our most charming selves, so we have this opposite effect. And again, it's not the external stimuli that is creating the difficulty. It's our internal regulation and which we don't react well to the external stimuli and the stories we tell ourselves in our head. And so if you get better at telling better stories and you get better at being self-aware, to me anyway, I believe, for me, that's what served me in a lot of different areas. And those tools can come from yoga, from meditation, from sports, from lots of different areas. Everybody's got a different path up the mountain. But I think many of us, most of us are climbing this same mountain, which is this journey of self-awareness and learning how to have a better life by just understanding how to respond better to the world rather than react to the world.
Let me zoom in a little bit on the stories to tell ourselves. You just said it's not the stage, it's not the crowd of people in front of you when you speak publicly. It's the story you have in your mind about this event. And we could change that if we tell better stories. What exactly do you mean with that?
So, for example, when I go on a stage and present, whether it's to a technical audience, because I'm in the tech field, or I'm performing music, well, I'll tell you, I performed music very early on. I was really lucky. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, on the Texas border. And El Paso was on the American side of the border. I grew up in a Chinese Baptist church there. So I'm part Chinese, part Mexican, and, 100% Texan. And, but I grew up in this, unusual mishmash of culture, and which in the end, I think has given me access to all cultures. That's a different story. But my very first, I was thinking about this the other day because the subject of Steinway pianos came up. And I was very lucky that at my high school, which was built in 1916, at a time when the city had no civic auditorium. So they used the high school, when they built the high school, they built it as the civic auditorium for the entire city. So it has this amazing 2,000 seat auditorium. That's kind of also why the number 2,000 comes to mind, because the first time I got on stage in front of anybody, I was playing piano. I was 15 years old, sitting at a 9-foot Steinway grand on this stage that was amazing. And in front of 2,000 people, and I was accompanying a singer. And so it was the two of us on stage. And I was young enough to not be too self-conscious in some ways about how bad things could go. I don't know, kind of like too stupid to know how things could go bad, and really enthusiastic, but, and aware enough that I wanted to just be really well practiced so that it would be muscle memory. But as I've gotten older, so very often you depend on muscle memory when you're in a situation like that I will know this piece so well that if my mind goes blank, my body will just take over, which is good. But as I've gotten older and been in lots of different performing situations, Actually, I went through this stage when I hit my mid-30s. I just started developing stage fright. In my early 20s, I had a little jazz combo band, and we'd perform, and no problem. I led that band, and I was at ease all the time. And then in my 30s, I just started developing stage fright. Horrible, horrible stage fright. And I did not want to be in front of the band, and I would be okay to be behind. I didn't want to do vocals. I didn't want to be seen. We were talking a minute ago about being transparent, that I had this book idea for quite a while, and to give a title of Transparent. I have become increasingly unwilling to be transparent, to be seen. And that's what I mean by, I think I'd mentioned to you this idea of being transparent, so at ease with yourself and who you are. All of you is available to anybody, and they can see whatever they want. And as I said, and also though, so clear that you yourself are not an obstacle to letting your inner light shine. And that's what had happened. Through various whatever, probably a troubling marriage is probably the main reason, but other things, other surprising failures in life, I guess, had kind of piled on. And by my mid-30s, even though I outwardly was very successful, I was comparing myself to what I thought I would or should be. And I wasn't reaching what I thought was my potential. And it made me feel like I didn't want to be seen. I was embarrassed, even of the successes, because I felt like they were fake successes in some way. And so in that time period, the stage fright is kind of still with me, but I've developed many tools around it. And so, for example, walking out on stage, when I was, say, 20 years old, I might have been thinking, how do I look? Am I ready? Am I prepared? What am I trying to deliver? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And that shifted to where now when I go out on the stage, if I'm in the proper mind frame and I take a few deep breaths, one, I'll use my physicality. So, like I'll take a victory pose, put my hands over. If it's a real challenging situation, there's been proven in studies, like if you just move to the physicality of the emotion you want, the emotion will start to show up. So if you're slouched over and hunched and shallow breathing, you will start to feel the emotions that go with that, whether it's depression or whatever, that down energy. But if you roll your shoulders back, you do the things that you might do in a yoga class, put your chest forward and, breathe deeply and raise your hands and smile.
Everybody just join.
Smile.
Yeah.
I often will do that if I'm teaching yoga at the end of yoga, or just a meditation, even if you're sitting peacefully, smile, just smile at your heart, feel your heart, and the physicality of it will tend to put your mind in that place. So if I go out onto a stage, I might do some physical things, slow my breath, be aware, get myself in a physical state, ground with myself, and then I just tell myself I'm just a messenger, whatever various words I use, and I don't get too hung up on the words, but growing up in a Baptist church, I might say I might use the words like, let me just let the Spirit flow through me, right? I don't really think of that way in Christian or Baptist terms, but it's just a word that conjures an image. I might say, just open your heart and just let love flow through you. And the message will be there. The message will be there. The message is not coming from me. I'm just a vehicle through which the message comes. So if I put my body in the right state and I put my mind in an open state, I put my heart in an open state, then when I walk on that stage, I don't take responsibility for any of it. I can just, if it goes wrong, I'll just blame it on the Holy Spirit or whatever, but then it becomes about, let me be the messenger for whatever I can be as a vehicle. Let me be that vehicle for who's ever in front of me at that moment. So it doesn't matter if it's one person or it's 2,000 people. If I can remind myself, let myself be a vehicle for the love that wants to come through me, not from me, but through me. If I can remind myself like that, then I become more mindful of who I'm with and connect with them. And the words, everything else just takes care of itself every single time. Every single time. Without fail. The right thing is said, the right quote is remembered, the right, whatever needs to be heard at that moment. And you can't prepare for all of that. Like in our conversation today, I was, like, prepare this. Maybe I should look this up, look up that, look at that. And at some point, like, preparation is great. The prepared mind, what is it? Quote, the luck favors the prepared mind. But the goal is not to prepare, not to present the preparation. Right. The goal is really to put yourself in the right mind state, to just be yourself and open your heart. Be the messenger and the vehicle of the journey you're on.
I'll just let that drop in a little bit longer. Damn. Okay. What, when you think those things, how does it feel in your body?
That's a great question. I love that question, actually, and for many purposes. Well, it varies, right? It varies on where I am. But the question is the more important thing than the answer. How does this feel in the body? Actually, the way I think of it is, if you read books like The Body Keeps the Score and other books where they talk about the nature of emotions, then you start to realize a lot of what we have labeled as psychological is really just a physical process in the body. And so I'll give you an example. Last year, a neighbor was building a house next to me, and it was frustrating to me. But I was exercising a tremendous amount of Buddhist patience with her, and it was exercising me to just be very tolerant and patient and compassionate, while at the same time holding my boundaries and not becoming a pushover. A lot of people, I think, at first, when they see what looks like Buddhist passiveness, is mistaken for a lack of will or boundaries, and that's the tricky part. Anyway, another story. But at one point, I had put this pile of dirt near my curb, and she came over, and she had a construction stuff all over the place for months, like 11 months, really. At that point, it was maybe 6 months, and just construction trash all over the place next to my house. And she came over and said, like, what is that pile of dirt doing out there? And I said, oh, that's just some extra mulch that I've had. And she said, well, it doesn't look very attractive. Are you going to remove it? And I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You got like a 20-foot pile of lumber sitting on your front yard. And I said, and I was everything in me to not lash out. And I said, it's going to be there for a while. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of things, but just take care of your side and whatever I said. The most tactful thing I could say without just being really angry. And I went inside, and and it was a deep anger. So there was something more to it. It wasn't just like, why am I so angry about this thing? Why am I so angry about her criticism? And I didn't need to answer the question why. Like, I don't need to go into whatever childhood trauma kind of answers. But what I did is I just said, where in the body do I feel this? And whenever I get into an intense emotional reaction, I've come to the place where I fairly quickly catch it. I say, this is an intense emotional reaction, probably out of proportion to the thing that just prodded it. Right? Sometimes intense emotional reactions are appropriate, but for the vast majority of the time, it's not. We're overreacting to things very often. And if we catch ourselves, and I said, where in the body is this? And immediately I felt it in a very specific place, right below my throat, near my neck. And I also, with a lot of chakra kind of background and study, there's stuff that goes into that kind of like, where in the body is it? But I don't want to be analytical at that moment. I just want like, where is it? And then tune into the feeling, like just really take my mind to that place in the body. And then my last girlfriend had this wonderful extra question that she added onto this. So we would do this practice together. It's like, especially when we're fighting. This was great. We would be fighting. And she was so great about it. She would say, is this about me or is this about something that's in you? And I would, well, okay. And then it would be like, well, where in the body is this? Okay, well, let me see where in the body it is. Because I don't know, maybe I'm angry at you or maybe I'm just angry and I'm using this. And I would find it in the body. And then she would say, or, help me to learn this part of it. And to whom does this belong? So when I felt that reaction to my neighbor, it was like this tightness around my voice, like I cannot express my true self. And I'm angry about it. And I felt it like near my collarbone. And I'm like, oh, I see this. I see the nature of the feeling. And with my mind, I looked at that place in my body and I just I observed it. I didn't say be gone. I just acknowledged. And as my mentor of many years taught me, we just acknowledge and release, acknowledge and release. We don't try to control, we observe it, we acknowledge it, and let it release if it wants to release. And so I looked at that pain and said, what am I reacting to? I'm reacting to this, quite frankly, overbearing female energy telling me I'm doing something wrong and criticizing me. And that's the nature of the feeling. And I can't fully express myself because I'm trying to be polite. And I'm angry about that. Okay, that's the long description of the emotion, okay? Whatever you want to call that emotion. I don't have a one word for it. I'm sure the Japanese have like a one word that captures it beautifully. They have awesome words. Japan.
Kaizen or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God, they're like,
Yeah.
they have wonderful vocabulary. But once I felt that, then I said, and to whom does this belong? And immediately it was like, oh, this is not mine. This is something that was kind of programmed into me. I didn't need to understand it. All I need to say, is this mine? No. I mean, I'd been stewing for about an hour on it. Okay. So I've been inside. I've been trying to do other things. Like, why am I so obsessed? And I'm like replaying the conversation. I should have said this. I should have said that. I'm like, whoa, dude, like you are wasting way too much energy on this one comment this neighbor made that you have very little interaction with anyway. This is not about the neighbor. This is not about the dirt pile. This is not about anything. It's just sensation in the body. That's all this is. See the sensation, acknowledge the sensation. And if you say, to whom does this belong? Very quickly, very often it'll be like, if it's not yours, it dissolves by itself. And if it is yours, like if it is something you need work on, very often you will just see, oh my God, this is the work I need to do. So that's yet another tool in the tool belt.
It's so good. Caro, greetings from her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She
I adore Kata. I adore her.
Yeah. She did one amazing thing exactly with those situations as well that she taught me, which was not, we didn't get to the part who does it belong to, but we got to the part that in the moment when you feel that, one thing that's happening is that we try to hold on to it with our thoughts.
Yeah.
It's an emotion for whatever, in your situation, just a neighbor said something, that created an emotion in you. It does not mean that the thoughts that are connected to it, quite often we try to analyze. I speak about myself. I try to analyze what is happening, where is that coming from, why did the person say that, what did they mean with this? But all I'm doing is perpetrating that feeling.
Absolutely. Exactly. You're amplifying.
Which might not...
Your thoughts are amplifying.
Yes.
Your thought is an amplifying machine. I mean, your brain is an amplifying machine, and your thoughts are where the laser beam is focused.
And in those situations, I noticed that this trying to figure things out and finally get to the solution is the very thing that keeps me stuck in the problem.
Exactly.
Because once I'm trying to figure things out in the mindset that created the problem, or keeps at least perpetrating it, then it just continues without end, essentially. I can go for days figuring things out without taking this deep breath, what you just shared, and just letting it go. Noticing that the feeling will fade, subside, and then the thoughts are not there either. And
Exactly.
that was
They release themselves.
such a
I mean, the
revelation.
brain is just
Yeah.
the brain is a thought machine, right? It just generates thoughts. They just generate thoughts. It's like, I wonder what I'll eat today. Like, oh man, that light is kind of bright. Like, I wonder, wow, is this microphone on? Okay. Well, it's like, oh my God, I got to remember to do it. And it's just blah, 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 right? And that's what it does. That, brains do what they got to do, but the brain, if it puts itself in charge, that is when it starts to get trouble. And that's when trouble arises. I love this phrase in yoga, when you say shift your gaze. If you've ever been to yoga classes, very often you'll hear some instructors say something like shift your gaze. But behind that, that same thing, you can have this idea like, I'm obsessing about this thought. Well, shift your gaze. Now, it's extremely easy to say that, but this is what years of meditation have helped me with. I do a lot of vipassana meditation, and it's like a muscle, taming the wild drunk monkey that your brain is, right? Your brain is like a wild drunk monkey, and it wants to be in charge, and it's hopping all over the place, but you are not the monkey. And if you can take that step away from the thoughts and say like, okay, this thought generator is up to this now. I see your shenanigans. I see what you're doing. And then don't control or deny it, but just say, no, okay, I see that's what you're doing. Now, I'm going to shift my focus over here. And in meditation, the easy thing to shift the focus is to the breath, because we have it all the time. We just have that available to us all the time. But we don't have to get too caught up on the breath. It's just an easy mechanism for practice. Like you're standing in line waiting somewhere, buying groceries or something, and you're feeling impatient and like, oh my God, this person. In the old days, we used to get really frustrated when somebody brought out a checkbook. Like, oh my God, you're going to write a check. Okay, I got this is the thing for. So people don't do that as much. But whatever, you're some situation that's impatient. If you're in your car in traffic, but I take this again, emotions. I'm trying to take emotions and trying to continue to learn how to use emotions as signals rather than identifying with an emotion. I am not impatient. Mm-hmm. I am is the most powerful two words I believe that we have available to the I am state of mind. I am impatient right now. No, I am not impatient. I'm experiencing an emotion of impatience. And so I use that as a signal. What's the signal? Oh, well, can I do anything about it? No. Okay. Can I go to the shorter line? No. Well, here you are. So you can either feel frustrated with the situation you're in or use that as a signal. Now, it can be whatever you want. For me, it's very often pay attention to your breath. Become mindful. Bring yourself to the present moment. So I now love stopping at stoplights. I love stoplights. Because I get them at a stoplight and it's like, oh, I hope it's a long one, because I'm going to close my eye and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to open my heart and I'm going to go to a meditative state, crack my eyes open every now and then, just make sure the light hasn't changed. And I go sort of a certain cyclical breathing that I do if I can. And
yeah.
So it's like, oh, great. The impatient signal is up. This is time to practice. Time to practice whatever, mindfulness, time to practice being in the present moment, time to bring your mind to where it is right now. And use your breath to do that, use your senses to acknowledge where you are. And then at the end of it, maybe you remember also to be grateful for where you are, no matter where you are, which is a very empowering feeling. That's the thing. I believe if we train ourselves to have empowering feelings and understand a lot of it's biological, a lot of it's physical, then you can train yourself to feel empowered every day, even in the lousiest situations. In the Viktor Frankl, talks about this, about the prisoners in Auschwitz. He says, we saw people who had their last bit of bread and going around and sharing it. Now, did they think that they were going to somehow get out of this situation alive? Maybe not. But as he says, you can take everything from a person except the last thing, which is the ability to choose your own way. And so if you just keep remembering, every signal is a reminder that you are choosing how to respond in the moment. You're constantly choosing. And don't let your brain choose for you. Don't let your hormones choose for you. Find a way to just observe them coming and going. Then you can start to choose empowering emotion, learn the tools to get your body into an empowered state.
I have a fun story for that one, which is in Thailand. You know that very well, and we went to a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat, and it was in really nice in the forest, and it's just magical places with huge library there, and it just looked really pretty with the stupa in there too. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be so zen here. It's gonna be amazing. And what happened in that area was, especially, it was still a bit rainy every now and then, and obviously the mosquitoes were all over the place. It was insane. And I'm a little allergic to mosquitoes. That means when I get a stung, they get like, I don't know, like a coin size and yellow, and like,
Oh my God.
I notice my mind gets really like a little bit allergic reaction. Like my body is like, oh, what's happening?
Right.
And so they were everywhere. A little bit less in the library, but they still found me. And the thing was, after 5-6 days, I was constantly, every 5 to 10 minutes, checking where the mosquitoes were. And the sound was irritating me so much, I couldn't possibly focus on the meditation. And that's when the insight at some point was like, wait, I'm obsessing about getting stung all the time. I spent way much more time thinking about when I will be stung, when this is happening, than the actual stung. And this is way worse than when I get stung, and I can't do anything against it anyways. So what I did at some point in the morning was, I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And we had breakfast, and I was like, okay, now when there's mosquito somewhere in my hand, somewhere I can see it, I'll just leave it there and see how bad it actually is.
Oh,
how
awesome.
bad is this
Wonderful.
that thing
Excellent.
that I'm obsessing about?
Yeah. Lean into the
And
pain.
so I let it stung.
Lean into the annoyance.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Let it stung me.
Very
like,
tantric.
That was on my left hand, somewhere between like the pointing finger and the thumb, on top. And I was seeing it. It was stinging me. It was like a little, I felt the penetration. I was like, okay, let this happen. And then a little bit the reaction. My body reacted a bit allergic, right? And I noticed like every once in a while, I don't know, when it was sucking or something, was like a little uncomfortable feeling again. And that happened for, I don't know, about a minute or something. I just let it happen, and it was fine at some point. And it even like got up and walked towards letting my dishes, put my dishes away, and still kept it with me until I was like, okay, I think I got the lesson. Bye. And that was the moment where I was like, wait, this thing that I could actually easily let pass on my skin, on my hand, that's what I'm obsessing about throughout the whole time, and I can't meditate for like 5-6 days already.
Right. It's amazing the amount of energy that we give, not that we
and the fun part about
that we allow our
is,
minds to use in focusing on these things.
Yeah, and the fun part was that while I was so concentrated on this mosquito on my hand, my knees were stung 5-6 times in the meantime. I didn't even notice because I was so focused on that one.
Well,
Yeah.
where the focus
So
goes, the
it was-
energy goes, right? I mean, this is the other phrase that, where the focus goes, the
Yeah.
energy goes. And this apply. These are small examples, but they apply in big ways too. They apply in societal ways. And how are we societies? What are we focused on? Are we focused on arguments that we're never going to settle, that are driven mainly by whatever social media algorithms or the agenda of media moguls? Are we allowing our societal minds to be controlled by the focus that does not serve us as a society? I mean, that's part of it. Mark Twain has this wonderful quote I love, which is, "I'm an old man and I've experienced many troubles, some of which actually happened." I paraphrase,
Hmm.
but a lot of the troubles that we experience are really the troubles that we have in our mind. The mosquito example is perfect metaphor of that. And while you're focused there, there's all these other troubles you're not paying attention to that you could. What about all those other
Yeah.
troubles? They come and go. They come and go. And so the very often, especially when I've had people I've coached or through life, I'm not like a life coach, but I've had many engineering interns and other goal setting um, seminars that I used to teach and things like that. If you ask somebody, what do you want? Let's say that you ask them about a relationship. Take you know, a woman who's 30 years old. She's been in and out of dating and says, what do you want? Well, very often you'll get, well, I don't want this. I don't want that. Oh my God, I definitely don't want that. Most anybody will say this, right? But they'll start to give you the list of things they don't want. And again, where the focus goes, the energy goes. So if your focus is on a lot about what you're not wanting to see, what you're going to see is a lot of that in the world, because you're just observing that your mind is picking up as a filter on where you're pointing the spotlight, basically. Like awareness is as thinking of awareness like a spotlight. You can see many things in the world, but you can't see them all at once. And when your awareness turns the spotlight towards a certain thing, that's a thing that represents the world at that moment. But there are many, many, many things in the world, many ways to be, many ways to think, many ways to live. And so when you're focused on the things you don't want, you tend to see those things in the world, and you start to paint the world that way. So then the next step is like, well, what would be the thing that you do want? Well, you kind of take the opposite role. Then you can go down that list. Oh, okay, I have a better sense of what I do want. And if you keep drawing down that journey, there is a process and method there where you end up is what you really are wanting is a feeling or an emotion. And so the feeling that is the secret. There's a wonderful book called The Feeling is the Secret, tiny book. It's written in a lot of religious terms, but Neville Goddard is the author. And he was very influential in the 50s and 60s, speaking about this sort of thing. But this idea that maybe the modern day language would be, manifesting methods or something like that. But if you go down the path of where are you, where do you want to go? If you get back, well, I don't want this, I want that, I don't wants, then you can just kind of turn down, okay, what the I do wants. Now list the I do wants, and then like, well, okay, what are the most important I do wants? Okay, narrow on those. Okay, we can't have it all. That's great to have a huge list. All the better, I say, fantastic. Make a massive list. Let all these things bubble from your subconscious. I do exercises with people, like it takes 15 minutes. Help sort out priorities. When you feel like you have too many options, it's overwhelming. So ways to like narrow down the options by finding out what is really important to you in this moment. Yes, maybe you want to, travel with the Bedouins at some point. But is that something is that as important, the most important thing you want to do in the next 6 months? If it's so, great. But as you list all the things out, let's focus more on what you're immediately drawn to. And I also believe that the things you're drawn to are drawn to you also. And I can give you some amazing stories about that. But I always believe that what your mind is really doing is connecting to some place and space, a time and space outside of you, or not really outside of you. If you identify with your ego, you often believe, I am this body at this certain place and in this certain time. But if you realize that you exist at multiple planes of consciousness at the same time, then the body is just an aspect of your identity, and it has a personality. But outside of that are things outside personality and outside ego. And you're really part of a field. And if you want to get down into the physics of it, the edges of the field are the edges of identity are very blurry. There's a lot of empty space in everything, a lot of empty space. And if you can start to see that part of your identity is actually the field itself, then you realize you're already connected to everything. And if you are already connected to everything, then the things that you want that you think are outside of yourself are actually already connected to you. And I have found if you go through the journey of manifesting things, it turns out that the things you want, you think of like, well, doesn't everybody want that? No, not everybody wants the things you want. You have a unique connection to those things because those things are also calling to you. You know? And there's a certain definition of dharma that there's like 70 definitions of dharma. So I'm sure if I define it, somebody's going to say like, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, just give me some room here. Like, but I think if you think of your dharma as kind of the authentic path for you that you are born into, and born into as in your biology, your time and history and all of that, there's a role and a function that you are serving now. You can serve a potential you have, every one of us. And it's different for every one of us. So if I say, I have this dream and I go to my brother and I say, I want to do this. What do you think? He says, I don't know. It seems fine. Doesn't seem really useful or inspiring. Well, it's your dream, not theirs. So there's no reason that somebody else can have the excitement about your dream. So if you can get in touch with the things you're excited about, then again, saying, I don't want this. Okay, I do want that. Without prioritize what you want. Okay, wow, that's the thing that gets you excited. And that I would wake up by 4 a.m. to do that because I would be so excited to go out and do that thing. Okay, that's the thing. And then it's like, well, I can't do, oh man, don't go that, no, I can't do that. No, you are the field. A part of you is already connected to that thing, that whatever, that environment. What you're really after is the feeling behind that thing. So what you want to do is then say like, well, what is the feeling? If that thing were fulfilled right now, how would I feel? I would feel whatever, joy. I would feel loved. Whatever the thing is, I would feel empowered. I would feel healthy. I would feel strong. There's some feeling that is actually the thing that you're drawn to, that your dharma is trying to fulfill. And that changes through your life. It's not always the same thing. Now, if you use the same mental kind of methods that we've talked about to calm yourself and now amplify that feeling, you're now shifting your gaze towards that feeling. You're shifting the gaze of your heart towards that feeling. And now let your heart amplify and grow with that feeling in a calm and meditative way. And if you let that expand, now just stay in that feeling and need to travel to the future to experience it because it's in you. What you do is you maintain that feeling. That's your job. And you go out in the world, and if things do not support that feeling, you move away from them. If things support that feeling, you move towards them. And magical and mystical things, mystical as in invisible hands come to help you in your life. Invisible hands you didn't know existed because you're trying to go from A to B, but B is not in front of you. It's way off around a hill and around a corner. Of course you don't know what it's going to look like because it's around the corner. If you knew what it looked like, you'd be there now. So what can you do? You can tune into your inner self and your higher self and let yourself connect to the field and connect the field through the emotion you want to amplify. And that is your compass. That is your compass. If my North Star is joy, then when I go out in the world, I say, I already am joyful. I am joyful. I am joyful. I am joy. Everything that resonates with joy, I will come in contact with in a crazy, mysterious way. Like it happens for people over and over. I see it in my life and other people's lives. If you can maintain the focus, magical things appear and your life becomes effortless.
Let me break that down. I think it's so amazing. If I have now the idea, I just want to play an example through. If I have the idea, hey, something in me is calling, I'm going to be rich. I need to make money. What would be the next step now? I'm just using a blank example that I might also have. And okay, then you say something like, oh, what's the feeling behind it?
So,
and I would say, okay, yeah.
So
then I would say, then I would say the feeling behind it might be, oh, you like feel, what is it, powerful and safety at the same time. Is that the way you just phrase it or put it? Just notice the feeling behind it and then go further with that. What would be the next steps in order for me to actually get to that money that I want, that's so important to me, and my life's purpose or dharma is right now having a lot of money?
So an approach that I have, and again, I'm not saying this is the approach. It's just an approach that's worked for me and that I've used with many people. We would do this exercise. So that's why. So it's not going to be a conversation because I am not advising you. I'm not going to give you feedback like you should do this, you should not do that, right? What I want to do is say, here is a process, and I'm just guiding the process. You already have all the answers.
Picking back on where I was asking you about, okay, I want to make money. I'm not in the energy of having a lot of money, or not currently. What would be the thing I need to do, like, to improve my situation?
Yeah. So, I myself would resist my own temptation to like give you or to try to provide an answer for you because I believe you already have the answers. You already have availability to the answers you need. Then there's a lot of material, especially when it comes to making money. So I don't think I'm going to illuminate you much. Maybe I have a book or something to recommend. But what I would do is I would respond with, well, here's a process to answer this kind of question at any time. Because what I want to do is pass along things that I felt were helpful to me. And if I'm in this conversation with people, they're going to be people who resonate with me, right? So I love what I heard once. If you're putting yourself out in front of people to serve them, 1/3 of them are going to love you, another third of them are going to hate you, and another third are going to, leave it or take it. They don't care, right? So I'm not trying to reach everybody, but I'm just trying to say, here's what's worked for me. And if it resonates with you, then we probably have things to share. If it doesn't, then it's no problem. That's good luck to you to find the thing that resonates with you. So my first thing is like, well, let's find the thing that resonates with you. Here's a process. Let's try this. It's a 15-minute process. So I would sit down with them. I've been thinking maybe I should record this process because I could just hand it to somebody. They do it. But I've done this with several interns over the years. They have found it very useful. And I've done it with small groups of people that I've worked with who are often in transitions. I love working with people who are in transitions, even though it's not my work, by the way. I mean, I'm an engineer. I design chips, and this is not how I make a living, but I find myself in these situations often. So if somebody said, well, I want to make some money, how do I do that? I said, well, let's try this process. So one, the process is we're going to make a list of everything you want to do, everything you want to have, and everything you want to be. Right? Because really, if you say, I want to make a lot of money, there's probably a tremendous amount of things in that bundle that you're packaging up as having money, being rich. Actually, you said, I want to be rich. Words are really important. I listen to people's words very carefully. I try to listen very carefully. I studied a lot of NLP also, neuro-linguistic programming. And if you read, Richard Bandler's book, John Grindler and Richard Bandler, there's Turning Princes into Frogs, I think is one, but there's another one where he goes into how we construct reality, and we use words to construct reality. Languages, there are some people who have said without language we would not be able to perceive reality. So this is really interesting because we're constantly creating models in our mind. Deep, deep subject, but our brains live in a black box called our skull. And everything that we think of as reality is just a model of reality, pieced together by the limited stimuli we have. Our eyes perceive the world, our ears perceive the world, but this brain is not actually exposed to the world. It's just signals. It's just electrical signals, electrochemical signals that the brain is reinterpreting and digitizing in its own way with neurons and making sense of it and creating a model. And the map is not the territory. So we need to like really grasp this. The map is not the territory. And even the map you have, it's incomplete. So,
Wait.
so
Let me
we'll,
let me
again,
let me let me check in that, because I think that's really important. You mentioned those concepts of NLP, which is essentially, I think when you look at it, the mind, the idea that we have, the pictures that I see right now, the feelings that I have right now, all of that is happening in the brain, which is locked up from all of those stimuli, but it just gets the electrical signals of how those things probably are, and then stitches them together in creating everything that how we feel right now.
so if we understand that our brains are in this black box, then we can start to really understand that everything that we perceive as reality is just a model of reality. And it's a model based on limited perception at that. So, not, the things we see with our eyes, for example, we don't see all the spectrums of light out there. Shrimp see more spectrums. Hummingbirds see more things than we do. Our ears are filtering constantly. Again, this story of like paying attention to mosquito bites, there's so much data coming into our brains that if you focus very narrowly on something, the brain will just ignore everything else. These are ways of conquering pain. I can sit in an ice bath for unlimited because it's not about how much, not about being able to take more pain. It's about moving your mind to a place where the pain is not telling the story. Right? So if somebody says to me, I want to make a lot of money and I'm going to go through this process, well, I'm giving you a background on this idea that I want to listen carefully to their words. Because if you said, actually, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, that's different than I want to have a lot of money. And I focus on the words because I'm trying to understand what are the ways that you have modeled reality for you. And that's why I brought up NLP, or bring up NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, because, Richard Bandler and John Grindler did a lot of work in the 60s, I think, very popular in the 70s. A lot of the stuff that Anthony Robbins did, he started his work in NLP. And so what you start to learn is that language is a bricks for our perception of reality. So everything that comes in as stimuli through our ears, our eyes, the brain puts into a model, but the map is not the territory. The model in your brain is not reality. And if you get that, then you can say, oh, can I get a better model? Instead of trying to correct reality, try to improve your model. And that model is also informed by signals from the body. So how you feel about things, what's in your nervous system is informing the model because your brain is connected to the body. So it's also input that is informing the model. But again, the map is not the territory. And this is an incomplete map at that. So you have an incomplete model that is not actual reality. So if we just kind of start with that premise, then we can be a little bit light with ourselves. We can be a little more gentle, like, okay, what's the model telling me today? And don't identify with the model. You are not the model. The model is the brain's algorithm for putting together how to navigate the body through the world and your consciousness through the world.
That's interesting. I never made that connection with the algorithm, but what came up when you just said it is there's so much information coming in, right? Like so much data all the time. I don't know, 200 billion bits per second of information that we see, feel, smell, touch. And some sort of, let's call it just now for example purposes, an algorithm selecting which information is useful or important right now. And
exactly. So the brain is operating on algorithms that we know. I mean, this is well studied. Well, this is not my opinion. This is just, I'm saying, I'll point you to all literature you want, but I'm sure you are definitely are very aware of it. And people listening to it have come across this, and it's more and more out there as we do more and more studies over the decade. But the bits coming in, for example, your eyes can take in about a megabit of data per second. So your eyes are able to bring in through through cones that have red, green, and blue. That's it. And through those three cones, they pull together all of this and light cones to perceive light. The brain is putting together how far something is, but it's just a flat picture. Right? We don't really see depth. The brain has ways of using shadow things. That's why you can have all these visual illusions, and you can create them because you say we're going to trick the brain to thinking things are there that are not there. The brain has algorithms for that. The brain is just a series of neurons. We talk about AI and algorithms. Our brains are neurons and algorithms. We've patterned AI after, well, neural nets. Neural nets are based on the way the brain hooks up neurons. And now that's another side conversation because there can have an argument about whether that form of AI is actually a replication of the way the human mind thinks, but that's a very deep and other conversation. But let's say just for now that we do know that the brain has some kind of algorithm it's using to filter. So if the light that comes through our eyes delivers about 1 megabit per second of data, our ears, order of magnitude less, so 100,000 bits per second come through our ears. And then interesting that our language center can only process a tenth of that, 10,000 bits per second. So at your skin, I don't know the exact numbers of the skin, but I'm guessing it's an order of magnitude larger than sight, because we bring a lot of information through our skin from all over the body, all right, and internally too, right? Your nerves are delivering messages right now from your left buttocks, but you don't think about that. But if I go to the gym and say, flex your left buttocks, okay, I got to get my mind in tune with that thing. Suddenly I'm really signaling. There's a signal there. Okay. That signal was always there. Your brain was filtering it out for you to keep you sane. Thank God the brain filters. This is keeping you sane. But the brain is a great servant. It's a lousy master, as Vivekananda used to say. And so what we want to do is not let the brain be in control. And we say, okay, if I understand a little bit more about this, I say, okay, the brain has a model of the world. I want to improve the model. This little process is this idea. Let's improve the model. So I listen to your words. I'm not going to go take you through therapy. I'm not trained. I have no training in, psychotherapy, and I'm not a medical professional. And this is not the role I want to play. This is not my dharma. But I have tools that have worked for me. And so this tool is, well, let's make a list of things. And we're going to make a quick list of what you want to do, what you want to have, and what you want to be. So you said, I want to be rich. Okay. I'll let you unpack what that means. I'm going to just take you through the process. Now what I'm going to do is time you, because the timing is really important on this. I want this to come from a happy place too. So we're going to just take like a 15-minute process. I'm going way deep into all the underneath stuff, I would never do this with somebody. Like, I'm not just throwing a bunch of facts onto, or, opinions about how the brain works on them. I said, okay. I said, with an intern, let's do a little 15-minute exercise. You got 15 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Sit down. You need to do this with a paper and a pencil or a paper pen. I need your hand. You need to be physically in motion, because there's a connection with the brain then better with the idea. Now, I don't remember the exact timing, but it's going to be roughly 2 minutes, I think. I started timer 2 minutes. I want you to list everything that you want to do, everything in life. And you got 2 minutes. Now, I did this exercise when I was coming out of in a real bad way. Christmas time, 1982. I was living in Austin. It was a very different town back then. There was one Whole Foods, the original Whole Foods, about 3,000 square feet. What's a little under 300 square meters. And that was the whole story, Whole Foods. So put yourself back in that time. 350,000 people in Austin instead of the 2 million that are here now. No billionaires lived here. Town's full of billionaires. Very different time, sleepy kind of college town at that time. And I was living in a hut, basically a cabin by the railroad tracks. I'd come out of college early, and I thought I was a golden child because I'd done a lot of things as a teenager, been very successful at what I did. And then I was directionless, and I started drinking a lot and partying a lot, and I was in my early 20s. I was drifting badly, but having a good time, having a great time. but feeling just empty and drifting. And I came across this exercise and it changed my life. You know, however old I was, 23, 24, something. And right before Christmas, 1992. And I remember it was a rainy month that year. And I was depressed. And I was living in this cabin where the ceiling was so low I could literally put my hand up and touch the ceiling without actually opening, stretching my hand the way up. My elbow still bent. I could touch the ceiling. And the railroad track was right down. So like when the railroad came by, my whole house would shake, Down in West Mary, if you're in Austin, it's right now those houses are probably selling for $2 million each. It's crazy. But back then it was like a humbling place to be. And I was at this point of despair, really, like, how have I graduated college at the age of 19. I had a pilot's license by the time I was 17. I was like top of my class. I, scored high on everything. I was like, wow. And then I came out and I was suddenly in like abject failure and drinking a lot. And I thought, why has this happened? Why? And I spent 2 or 3 years asking why, until I realized that's a lousy question, because all your brain does is come up with an answer. Well, because you're a loser. Well, because you had a horrible childhood. Oh, because you ask your brain any question, it will give you an answer. It has to. That's what the brain does. That's another function of the brain. It doesn't mean it's the right answer. Oh, why are you overweight? Well, because you have no self-control. Well, you don't know. But your brain needs something. It gathers the facts, and it gives you the most reasonable answer it can.
So I just want to highlight this. It's so important. A lot of times when I go a lot into doubt and insecurities with my clients, and one of the most important thing that is happening when they're in those situations, maybe spiraling down or something like that, is they're asking themselves the questions that will lead them to feel bad. Exactly what you just said right now.
Right.
Why am I not making more money? Why do I not find the perfect partner for myself? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? And your brain, exactly as you said, will come up with the answer for all of the questions that you will be asking it. And the problem with those things is that they are as true as if you ask the other way around. They're as true as you exactly put your mind, your gaze shifted towards the positives. Like, how can I make this better? What am I good at already? Like, what are things that I'm grateful for right now? And then if you ask those questions, your mind will come up with those answers too. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong or made up or artificial. They're both present at the same time. As you said, with the signal in the left buttocks, they're there all the time. But the question is if we focus on them or not. And so one of the most important things that you can do is ask better questions, and reality will change.
Exactly. Get really good at, and so constantly improve your questions, and even ask, can I ask a better question? That's a good question. I think it's credited to Einstein. I don't know if he actually said this, but he said, if I had an hour to work on a problem, I would spend 55 minutes on the question and 5 minutes on the answer. Improve the question. Well, in this scenario, then, this process, and again, we're going real deeply into all the philosophy of all this stuff. I would not expose all this stuff to somebody in front of me. I'd say, okay, let's make a list. This is what we do. I'm going to time you for 2 minutes. Tell me everything you want to do. Okay, go. And before that, I would give just a little prep, and imagine that you're 6 years old and you don't even know what's possible. And it's going to be whatever. Christmas time, it's your birthday. It's your birthday. You get anything you want on your birthday. And everybody wants to give you everything you want. Nobody's going to say no to you on your birthday. Except we're just going to put this out to the universe. And the universe could give you anything you want. You ask a little kid, like, what do you want for your birthday? I want an elephant. And I want a juggler. I want a juggler on the elephant. And I want all my friends, and there's no sense of like what's real or like, like, what are you talking about? There's no way we can bring it. No, none of that. All like, just from a desire point of view, this is not the time at this moment in this process to think about what's possible. Forget what's possible. Again, What's possible is limited to what your brain thinks the story of reality is in the model. So let's just put that on hold for one moment and let's admit to yourself, maybe your brain doesn't have the most, your brain is doing the best thing it can do right now with the model. And if you're getting results that you don't like, it's because this is what the model is giving you at the output. So let's work on improving the model instead of changing things on the outside. Guarantee the things on the outside will start to come in that the model will allow, because the model is not it's filtering out the stuff it cannot accept as possible or real. So let's start with this emotion of, okay, I don't care if this list is real. 2 minutes. Ready? Everything you want to do, boom, start writing. I want to do what I want to do. I want to go to I want to go to Egypt. I want to ride a camel in Egypt. I want to ski. I want to ski and then okay, I want to do these things. Do or experience. I want to.
I definitely want to run a marathon at some point.
Awesome. So it goes down. And by the way, not sentences.
Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, go Kilimanjaro. So you just write Kilimanjaro. Next thing, and then so just words, because you already know.
Yeah.
Word. So just get it down, because I'm timing you, and you go, come on, let's go, keep on going, and you'll start digging and digging, oh, I want a free dive. Yeah, that's something I really do. You'll keep going. Then you get to the end of the 2 minutes. Okay, great. Now you have a list. Now everything you want to have, like things that you can possess, and go crazy. Do not worry. Don't judge yourself. This is not, the comment. And now I'm not going to see it. You're not even going to show this to me. That's the other thing. This is all for you. This you vomiting your subconscious onto a page. Okay, so no worries, no judgment. Let it go. Everything you want to have. 2 minutes. Boom. Go. I want to have. I don't know. Come up with something you want to have, Julian.
The first thing that comes up is weird. A Tesla. I love it. Drove it once.
Okay.
Want to have it.
Sweet. Okay.
Maybe also a football field right in front of the house, so whenever I want, I can play.
Sweet. Cool. Bigger.
I want
bigger thing.
To have definitely a fireplace where I can always make fire. When I have maybe friends beautiful. Even living in the streets. Now as digital nomad, it's difficult, but friends living super close by. A pool would be amazing. I want to be able to maybe like
things you have,
jet ski
things you can have or possess. Oh, jet skis are fun. Yeah.
What else?
Okay. So let's say we're going down this path. Okay. So you're vomiting this list of haves, and at the end of 2 minutes, okay, you're done. There's another full sheet of page of this. Again, you don't show this to me. This is just for you.
Yeah.
And then we say, what do you want to be? When I say be is like, what are the skills you want to have, or things you want to learn, or ways you want to be. I want to be compassionate. I want to be. It could be health traits too. Like I want to be energetic. So things like that.
Sure.
I want to learn this language. Like I want to learn French, or, I want to, all these things. So things that are internal to you that other people cannot see. We go 2 minutes on that. Yeah. So now what you have at the end of this, you have these 3 long lists.
Yeah.
Okay. And now what we do now is we have, again, another timed session. This one, you'll get a little bit more time because you've got to go through all these lists. And then what I want you to do is, and by the way, if you're listening to this, go do this thing. Like you don't need me to coach you. Go say, I'm going to start a timer and I'm going to do this. It's good if you can get to the mental state though. So try to be in a happy, good mood, rested, not tired, fed, not hangry, just I'm feeling good, feeling great. Let's do this thing with a great, anything's possible. Go listen to some music that I love that music, or listen to some motivational speech, man, I feel so powered and strong and like anything's possible. Let's get this thing. Let's just dump out on this list. Okay. Don't be afraid of what comes out. Like whatever. Is it not a plan? This is a dumping of subconscious stuff. At the end of this, you have 3 pages of lists and this, hey, okay, now I'm going to have a timer, 4 minutes. I want you to write for every single one, go down, whether it is something you want in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or 20 years. So don't think too much about it. Just one by one. Like I want to learn French. For me, that's like it's more like a 2-year thing, but say 1, 3, 5, or 20. So everything will have a number next to it about how long out it is. So like at that time, I wanted a house in, again, I'm living by the train tracks at this point.
Yeah.
I'm, yeah. Um, and I'm living by the train tracks, and like literally at one point in that year, I think I had 7 pennies in my truck. I was driving a truck, and I had nothing else. No other money, nothing in the bank account. Probably had credit card debt. I had 7 pennies to my name.
Wow.
So I was feeling paycheck to paycheck is being kind in describing where I was in that. And I was in poverty mentality and drinking a lot and having a good time. Again, I was having a good time, but I was not living up to what I knew my potential was. And I had come off this thing of asking, why am I, my brain just kept going, well, because whatever, you're a loser, because you had a bad childhood, because blah, 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 blah. All the reasons why you are currently a miserable son of a, this is all the reasons you are not where you want to be. Well, I stopped asking why, because it wasn't working. It wasn't
Yeah.
getting me anywhere. And I started asking well, how? And like, okay, how can I go somewhere else? How can I be? Then those hows started to become better and better questions. So like, for example, if I were improving the question of how can I, a simple one that a lot of people ask themselves, how can I lose weight? And it's just on every question and enjoy it.
Mm.
How can I make more money and enjoy it? How can I be in a relationship that's fulfilling and enjoy it? Just, again, that's just one little phrase. My questions tend to have a lot of things around them now because I've built this thing of like, I want super optimized questions that are fulfilling. And actually, I've moved beyond the questions. Now I've just moved to the feeling. Because if you're just living in joy and love and open heart all the time, all those questions get answered in resonance with that. But that's another level and step. And go back to the process. Now I'm going to time you. You have a numbers at the end of this 4 minutes. Now I can say, okay, now everything that has a 1, which means everything that's in the next 1 year, I want you to put it on a separate list from the do, have, and be. No matter where it is, make this on a separate page. Normally, people will have no more than 20% of their list is in the 1 year range. Because a lot of things are big. Like, so I said at that time, I want a house in Europe and I want a house in America, and I want I want a baby grand piano. And so those are just kind of things that, okay, that came to mind. And at the time, when I was 24 years old, I thought, oh, okay, well, what do I want in my lifetime? Like, okay, I want these things. Everything on my list I had within 9 years. I was thinking way too small. That's the other thing. Think bigger. Think bigger. Especially if you're young. Think bigger. Think big. That's all I can say. Think big. However, if you think your dreams are too big, let me tell you, if your dream can be accomplished in 1 year, and if your dreams can be accomplished in your lifetime, big. And you get better as you get older at dreaming beyond your lifetime. If I finish all the things that I want to accomplish in my lifetime, one, I will be amazed, but also it means that my dreams are too small.
If you're thinking your dreams could be accomplished in your lifetime, they're too small. Okay.
Because that's your ego trying to, the dreams that mean the most. And I get emotional about this. I don't know why, but the dreams that mean the most are the ones that serve others. And there's a lot of need in the world, A lot of people who need it, who need you to be who need you to show. And you don't show up for them, you show up for yourself. But when you're in alignment and living out of joy, to make many people you can show up for that you didn't even realize you were showing up for. So we're not doing it to save the world, You're just doing it to show up in the world. And by showing up in the world, you have a much better chance of making improvements. And the world has plenty of problems to go around. We all know that.
May I
So
ask
in
you
this process,
what
yeah.
part of this was creating this emotion in you? Or is there something behind, if you want to share?
Well, I mean, I'd have to recount so many points in my life to pinpoint where the emotion is, but I just know whenever in my life that I have made my decisions about what to pursue based on satisfying my ego, that it's always led me to a place where I feel like I'm not leading my true life. And part of the trick is knowing what is the voice of the ego and what's not. But when I've led what I believe is my dharma, where I know there's a calling, and I think we all have some kind of calling. If I'm responding to my calling and get over the fear of being seen to answer that calling, or whatever, get over the fear of whatever it is that you start to hesitate on answering the calling. Oh my God, but what if I don't have enough money for that? Oh my God. Oh, but what will my friends think? Oh my God, what will, you know, so many, most people have some sense of calling. And by the way, this process will help you kind of get clarity on, well, what am I really feeling called to do? Because the calling is not an obligation. Your desires are the signal. Again, what you desire is connected. What you are seeking is also seeking you.
Oh,
Yeah, so it can be difficult to hear the signals about, is this coming from the ego or not coming from the ego? And again,
yeah.
I don't think, okay, the ego is bad or good. It's just a mechanism. It's often probably a mechanism of the brain. It's probably part of the default mode network. It's this sense of individuation, the separate. And that's good because we're trying to protect the body and keep it alive. And we just dissolve into this oneness all the time. Well, I don't know if it's good or not. I mean, Sri Ramana Maharshi would often wander into the woods, and at one point he had this open sore and being eaten by insects because he had a sense of self that was really dissolved, but he was held in as a person who was enlightened. So he had helpers who would bring him from keeping wandering into the forest. So good or bad, there are people who have such a sense of dissolved individuation that they're just feel at one with everything, and they're not worried about preserving their body. I'm not at that point, as I've learned. Having gotten very sick, I realize I'm very attached to life. Like it's not that I'm afraid of death. I just really love life, and I haven't quite reached that state of being, mental state where I don't have an attachment to being alive. But this idea of dreaming big, one, you don't know what you're capable of, especially when you're young. You really don't. And even when you're older, you still don't know what you're capable of because your mind is a black box, and it's creating models, and the models are about what you've experienced in the past. So the model is limited by just the data you've been exposed to. If you are, Alan Watts once talked about this idea of being on a boat, like a motorboat. And imagine that you're on the back of this boat and you're looking behind the boat. And what do you see behind the boat? You see a wake. You see the churning of the water and the pattern of the wake. What is that? That is the pattern of the trail that's been left behind by the motion of the boat. Is the wake driving the boat? The engine in the boat is the current energy that drives it. And yet we look to our past as if it is what's driving our present. That's not what drives our present. It's just the pattern that we've left behind, the trail. And if our brain says, well, what has happened in the past must be a predictor of the future, which is what the brain wants to do, predict the future. That's all. That's good. That's great. Keeps us well. But if it becomes your limitation, the path, and your mind is playing tricks on you because it believes that what you are capable of in the past is what you're capable of in the future. And that's true. What you've experienced in the past is just what you experienced. So we ask better questions. We get a better model. We dream bigger to improve the model. We observe without being identified with it. Oh, it's a failure. That's a learning experience. I've got a better frame of it. Okay, that's a learning experience. Oh, that was a painful learning experience. Oh, that was a sad learning experience. Okay. I am not the sadness. I am not the pain. I'm observing that experience. My consciousness is also beyond that in other places at the same time. I know. My consciousness is not limited to the body. I am the field. You are the field. This idea that we're separate is an illusion. I'm not telling you this because I read it in a book. This is my experience. I'm speaking from my experience.
When was a moment where you, I guess you heard it before, but when you embodied it, when you felt that this is truth for you?
I can give you many, we could talk about the ayahuasca experience. We could talk about spontaneous experiences where I just expanded and felt one with all the universe. We could talk about meditation experiences. These are all methods, and I would love to talk to you maybe about them at some point, but I don't want to get distracted by method, because we can use plant medicine to do this. We can use mindfulness meditation. We can use whatever, bhakti yoga. We can use, tantric yoga. We can use breathing. These are all just methods of self-awareness. This Gurdjieff, the G.I. Gurdjieff, I think, Gurdjieff, who wrote a lot in the early part of the last century, wrote, if you want to be liberated, if you are in a prison and you want to be free, but you don't know you're in a prison, you'll never be free. If you think you're free and you're in a prison, but don't know it, you will never free yourself. So this idea that once you realize you're in a prison, then you can free yourself. Well, okay. Then the next step, as Ram Dass had pointed out, well, you can use ways to break out of the prison. Plant medicines is one. He did a lot of psychedelic. The thing is, people get over the prison wall. They use whatever, psilocybin, LSD, ayahuasca. People get over the wall with yoga. People get over the wall with breathing. These are great ways to start to liberate yourself from the prison is the tyranny of thought forms, by the way.
What does that mean?
The prison you're in is not seeing yourself or things as they are, because you're being your model of the world is being ruled by the tyranny of thought forms, your own. If you are going to liberate yourself from prison, you must liberate yourself from the tyranny of your own thought form. Those are limiting beliefs. Those are whatever. It's not seeing the world as it is.
Yeah.
And so people break out of the wall of the prison through different things, and they realize, oh, this is the reality of things. I have an ego that identifies with the body, but I am not only that body. My consciousness is tied to the field and everything in the field. And so I am part of the field. It's in the same way that a molecule of water is a molecule of water, but in the ocean, it's also the ocean. So we are the ocean of consciousness, and we are this body is a vehicle of that. And you ask me, well, when's the time I've experienced it? Many, many, many times, and any time I could experience it any day. But that's because I've used the methods to get over the wall. But if you're using plant medicine and this is like your 20th ayahuasca, and you're just returning to it, it's like, as Ram Dass says, you've just become attached to the method. You're just so in love with going over the wall. You forgot, you're going back into prison all the time. I'm jumping back into the prison so I can get out of it. You're just going back and forth, in and out of prison, which is fine. I'm not telling anybody what they should do with their lives. But the idea of the method for many was to get out of the prison. And the method then just becomes another distraction or another way of being caught back in the prison.
That's so interesting. I recently noticed for myself that I'm so in love with getting insights. They make me feel super excited when I learn something new about myself, or break through this, I guess, the fourth wall in theater, notice something again, become aware that I don't care about sustaining that, but it's nice to all the time realize that over and over and over again.
So
I guess that's
exactly,
what
at
you meant.
some point, there is a, whatever you want to call it. For some, it's like a dopamine rush or whatever. A lot of talk about dopamine. So again, there are biological reasons that we often have this kind of attachment. I'm beginning to really understand that attachment is a lot about our biology, probably through evolutionary processes. But if we become aware of the biology, say through vipassana meditation or other methods, again, I'm not selling anything. I'm not proselytizing. Like, well, 1/3 people hear this are going to say, "What an idiot, God," and another third are going to say, "Oh my God, I love this stuff. I love what I'm hearing." And another third are going to like, "Whatever." So I'm not trying to preach or convert anybody. I'm just saying there's a choir, and I'm just gathering the choir because I think this choir can do a lot of good in the world. And again, on the dreaming big. Yeah, I want to gather at least 2 million people in the choir. And it doesn't mean to be here for me, but the choir needs to gather. The planet needs people who are thinking about how to expand their consciousness. The planet needs this. Humans, the planet. And if humans are not going to do it, we'll be gone and the planet will go on and be fine and it'll repair itself. Right? But I think humans can be a vehicle for expanded consciousness on the planet, for the planet. That's a bit about the dreaming, you know. We've kind of gone a few different directions here. So let me rein in to get back to what this process is. Because a lot of these are just ideas that we could debate about, but what I would like, if I'm with somebody, what I'd like to say, try this process, see how it works for you. Right? And then you observe what happens to you. I'm telling you, when I was 24 years years old, I went through this 15, 20-minute process. It changed my life. And things started showing up for me immediately. Things I thought would take me 10 years and a skill to do showed up in 3 months. And I'm just there. Like, what? How is this possible? All the dreams of things of lifestyle I wanted to live that I thought would take me a lifetime, they were all there within 9 years. Not even. What am I saying? It was 6 years. By the time I was 30, I'd accomplished everything on that list. And that's when I realized I was thinking way too small. And a lot of those things were about me and what I wanted, my pleasures and all that. And that's what I mean about the ego. I'm not saying it was a bad process, but it helped me to see, like, having multiple houses and multiple, Europe and America and a third place and all this, like, on the outside, like, wow, what glamour. If I were on Instagram, I would have, there would have been all these Instagrammable moments full of them every day. But I wasn't happy with that. It was a lot of maintenance. It's a pain. It's a pain in the ass to maintain multiple households. It's, and then it's like, oh, how are we going to maintain it? Well, let's get some servants. Okay, well, we got to up the money. So more. Most of these things that, when you start to get them, you realize they come with other stuff. Obligations, the need to curate. My mentor, who I had since the age of 11, he died last year. His name was Lee. He managed the estate for Senator Rockefeller. He had accomplished some big things in his life. Before that, he managed the estate for a person who owned the Atlanta Falcons. And so we had some great times down in Atlanta, Georgia. But he had done some remarkable things. But at the end of his life, he was living in a cabin outside of Taos, north of Taos, in Sangre de Cristo Mountains up there, and in a hut that had an outhouse. And we would sit outside and it was one of the most happy times of life for both of us, me watching him, And so the idea that, again, the feeling, this is where the other part, all these lists of things. So you go through this list of things. Now you got time frames. Okay. 1, 3,
Yeah.
5, 20 years. Now you've got a list that's 1 year. So listen, all that other stuff, awesome, great. Maybe it's out there, but we want to focus on the things that are in a 1 year time frame. What you want to do, have and be. Okay, now we have that list.
Gotcha.
Now we got to make some choices. So if you have more than 3 things in each of the categories, pick the top 3. So if you have 9 things you want to do this year, let's just stick to the top 3. 9 things you want to have, stick to the top 3. 9 things you want to be, learn, then stick to the top 3. Now what we've really got is 9 things you can focus on this year in these categories. And let everything else go. Because if you say, I want to have $100 million in liquid assets, great. And you say, by when? I want that in the next 20 years. Wonderful. Okay. There's some step along the way that's in the first year. And so if you're worried about how short you are on year 20, you're wasting your energy now. So the idea is that let's let the past go, because it's just the wake behind the boat. It's not driving the boat. Just the pattern of what's brought you to now. Stop looking back at the wake, the trail of your life. Bring yourself to the present moment. Yes, it's wonderful. We could all just live in the present moment and not think about tomorrow, but some of us have commitments we make for work and people. So we do think a little about the past, the future, but we don't need to be thinking about, but well, am I going to be set up in the right way for 20 years from now? It's wonderful to put it out as this big energy out there of, man, that's what I want as the big dream of my life. But you don't know how you're going to feel in 3 years. What if you have cancer in 3 years? That's going to shift your priorities. What if you have married somebody and they have cancer? That's going to shift your priorities. So how many decisions you make in the next 6 months, not limited by your capabilities that you've shown in the past. And let's not get too distracted by where it's going to take you 20 years from now. So bring your mind and your energies to the moment, to your local area of space and time where you have the most influence, and bring your consciousness to it. Now, the next step is all these things actually represent an emotion, these 9 things. And it's the thing that you think is missing from your life. Because what it is the emotion or the feeling that you think those things will bring you. Probably. Sometimes it's very practical, but very often it's the emotion or the feeling you think you're missing from your life that you wish you had more of. And these things, 9 things, are the symbol of the feeling. So now we go into each feeling. Okay, now I say, now let's say you have, you said, well, I want to have. Okay, I know. I'll tell you what. Like, I'll just take an example for me. I want to be able to. Well, I want to experience this Muay Thai training. I went to a Muay Thai training that one of the digital nomads we know, Timia Pintia, does. And I loved it. And so, like, I want to experience that again. So it's on my list. Like, in the next 6-9 months, it's like, yeah, I want to do more Muay Thai training in Thailand. I want this experience of going to Khao Lak or something like it. And I want to experience that feeling, those people. I really love the environment, the community. Okay. I want to do Muay Thai training in southern Thailand. That's a thing on my 9 of my 9. Okay. That's the experience I want to have. Right? That could be a doing experience. It could also be a being experience. Like, I want to be able to get through the 2-hour workout without taking a break. Let's say that's whatever. It could be in these categories. Let's say for me, I want the experience. I want to do that thing. I'm going to say, okay, it's in a moment now. I want to, and you close your eyes and imagine you're there. Imagine you're doing that. And roll your shoulders back and really breathe deeply. Feel to be there. And it takes a while to get into that space internally. Like, you're in that thing that you say you want in the next 6 to 12 months. How would it feel when that is fulfilled? So for me, the word that comes up, I will feel energized and strong. Okay. Yeah. That's what that particular thing is a symbol for me. For everybody, they're going to have their thing. You write down those words. Energetic, strong. Another thing, like a big thing for me 8 years ago was joy. Everything was about joy, 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 joy. I just want to feel joy. And so joy was my North Compass. But so whatever the word is now, feel it in your body. And then you say, where is that in the body? Oh, the feeling of strength is in my chest. It's in my lungs too. Okay, that kind of expand. Okay, now you feel it, and now expand the feeling. Like let it grow beyond your body. Now this becomes a meditation of letting that feeling expand. And then move your body. You might have to stand up. Like with me, I will move. Like go if I wanted this feeling strong and energetic, I'm going to go walking. I'm going to breathe deeply. I'm just going to move. Okay, this is a feeling. Well, guess what? You've got the feeling now. You don't have to wait 9 months. So if this is the feeling that you want, now live in that feeling and remind yourself, put the words out, whatever. Do the practices and methods that will expand that feeling in you. Maybe that experience will come up and be present in your life. And plan for it. Buy the plane tickets. Do all that stuff. But along the way, what will happen is many other things will come that resonate with that. You know, it's always interesting in a crowded room of people, you go to a place that's mingling with a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
Say there's 50 people in a room. The people who resonate with each other will find each other pretty quickly. And it's always interesting. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's like a dating kind of a mingling situation. The abuser energy finds the victim energy. The ambition energy finds the cheerleader energy. There's a resonance. It's not that they're the same. It's that the energies are compatible. And if you are constantly putting down an energy of, I'm a loser, I can't do this. Oh, that dream is too big. You know, that's your ego is hedging. If you say, I really want to build a business that reaches 1 million people and delivers this service. And you say, well, let's just go. I want to reach 1 billion people with my, oh, forget that. I could never do that. Assuming you want that. Okay. I'm not saying you need to want that, but if that's what, like, you feel that's your calling and you start to say, well, that's not realistic. As soon as you start saying it's not realistic, that's just your ego hedging to save you from the disgrace of failure. And that's what I'm saying. If that is your dream, drive to that dream. And you might never accomplish it in your lifetime. But if it is your calling and it is calling you and you feel uniquely in a position to serve that dream, then do not put the constraint on it because you don't know how well you might be able to serve that dream. And it'll change anyway. So don't falsely put a constraint of, well, I can't do that. I won't achieve that. That is not the guiding principle here of what is doable. How many things have been thought impossible until seen done? I think that's Catalyst who said that. How many things have been thought impossible until seen done? I designed microchips that even 10 years ago, we said, we won't be able to do these things on chips. It's physically impossible. 10 years later, we're doing them. We found the solution. If you're focused on the problem, the home is what the energy goes to. Focus on the vision, focus on the solution. And every time you're distracted by the problem, okay, deal with it, but it's not the direction. It's not the direction. The direction is the feeling that you feel you want to serve or amplify. That's the direction. You keep course correcting to that direction. Anything that takes you away from it, you say no to. Anything that feels you bringing you closer, you say yes to it. And you get really good at saying yes to the things that align with your vision. If you're lost and don't have a vision, go through this process. Your subconscious knows what it wants. Your body knows where the place it wants to be. Go through this process. Get 9 things you can focus on for the next year and really come back to those. And if they don't hold the power, then those aren't the 9 things. These should be things that excite you. Like, wait, I'm going to do that. I am going to do that. Oh, yeah. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't even know if it's possible, but I get excited at thinking like, maybe that will happen for me this year. If you could feel like maybe that will happen for me this year, that's what you drive toward. And it's not whether you succeed or not. It's being in the energy that makes you excited and driven. And long term, you will eventually flow with it in a way that it becomes effortless.
Okay, and if I've written down those things, this feeling is created in me. I'm like excited about those things that I just wrote down on the piece of paper. What happens tomorrow? What happens next week? Because what happens quite often is then that I lose focus, I forget about it, I lose interest. Life is happening. Maybe a doubt, the doubt is creeping in. The question that I'm in the habit of repeating is, oh, this is never going to work. Why should I do? Whatever question comes up is coming back in. What is, after you've done that, you have this vision for you that last week was very inspiring, but today you feel bad. What do you do
Yeah,
then?
those are multiple questions. So the next thing, like when we leave that session, I'm going to say, you have the 9 things. There are 9 things. One of those at the top of the list each. On each of those things, you need to take an action in the next 24 hours, preferably today. Let's say take the thing, okay, I want to go to Muay
Mm-hmm.
Thai training in time. That's the thing I want to experience with it here. I could do something today. Something, an action towards that. I can just go on the webs. Like, let me look up Muay Thai camps. Maybe I buy a plane ticket. Like, I am doing this. I'm picking a date. I purchase my ticket. I go purchase. Like, there's nothing like having a plane ticket to get you really focused on being
Mm-hmm.
prepared to leave. I don't know what that thing is for you, but there is an action you already know. Chunk it down, chunk it down, chunk it down, chunk it down. There's something you can do in the next 6 hours that moves it a little bit, a little bit. Now, the thing you said afterwards was, well, what if I get depressed? What if I lose my way? There's all these other methods. This is the thing. If the big dream is just really to put out there into the model, your mental model, that there is more possible than you imagine. So let's go, open up the imagination a little bit and just try to imagine bigger things.
Hmm.
It's an exercise in getting used to it. And at first, if you've not done this, of course, it'll be like, whatever. It's okay. Like, yeah, right. Like, that's going to happen. That's fine. Okay. But you've pierced a little bit into that dark box in your skull that says a little bit light comes in, like, well, maybe that's possible. And when you start to have successes, then you start to realize, like, oh, what I thought was possible as a 16-year-old maybe was not as well informed as what I expect can happen at 30. That can go different ways for some people, right? But it's not the same. And so wherever you are now, you can adjust your expectation of what you deserve where you are. And if you change your biology, you use different methods, you can find ways to deal with, okay, I'll give you an example. I went to this Muay Thai retreat just in March. I was in a bad physical way from
Yeah.
long COVID. And for 3 years, I said, I don't know if I can do that. I don't really think it's possible. But I told Tomei, I sent her a deposit. I said, well, 2 possibilities. I'm either going to lose this deposit because I'm not going to have the energy to do the thing, or I'm going to find a way to do this thing. And I started just training and measuring and doing the things that would give me more confidence that I'm going to show. And I showed up there and I said, I still don't know if I'm going to do this thing. I don't know if I'm going to get 30 minutes into the first training and just be wiped out and sick for the next 2 weeks. I don't know. I also don't know that that's not true. Like,
Hmm.
very often, if we, again, asking better questions or stating what you think is possible, if you had a person, I heard a story, a person gets on a plane, I think Wayne Dyer told this story. He's on an airplane and somebody sits next to him. He says, well, what do you do? And she's, oh, I'm a photographer. And he says, oh, really? You make a good living doing that? He says, yeah, but I'm never going to get rich doing it. No, he says, why would you say a thing like that? Why would you say, I'm never going to experience this, or I'm never going to be at this level? Maybe you will, or maybe you won't. But why are you telling your brain this is not a possibility? It doesn't mean you even have to work to it. But if you're just saying to your brain, this thing, it doesn't exist in the world. Being rich as a photographer, which is a total lie. There are plenty of photographers who are making a lot of money, very wealthy, actually, through photography. So it doesn't mean that she has to feel like she needs to get rich. It's just like, if you're in a situation where you say that this might or might not happen, why not choose the frame that empowers you instead of using the wording and the framing that limits you? Because you don't know, again, this little black box doesn't know what's in the brain, doesn't know what's around the corner. So instead of, because either one could be true, choose the one that's empowering. You don't have any proof yet of either one. Choose the empowering belief. It's just as reasonable as choosing the limiting belief. To say like, well, it's not reasonable to believe you can get rich as a photographer. I don't know why that's not reasonable, any more than saying it's not reasonable to believe you will never be rich. I mean, it's, like we're making choices all the time with our brain about what is possible and not possible. And the more I expand and open to what is possible, more I realize, like, my God, our limitations as humans are serving some old biology to preserve us from being eaten by jungle creatures. And we see fear and danger all over the world that we actually don't need to react to or respond to, but we're primed for it. And so many of us think of the world as a scary place. There's this wonderful word I like, pronoia. Have you ever heard the word pronoia? Yeah. It's this,
I think from you, yes.
maybe the opposite of paranoia is you believe that there are forces out there seeking to do you harm. Pronoia is you believe that there are forces out there to help you. I just bought in that there are hidden forces all over the world that I do not see that are constantly trying to help me on my mission. And the more I believe in the goodness of my mission, the more it's easy for me to believe that, of course, other people want to help me, because I'm just a messenger fulfilling a bigger mission. So, and then that's what I encountered. I'll give you a story. I'm going to give you a story because you said, well, how do we deal with this? When we say, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm a little depressed. You have to notice that that's a signal. I was once on a plane going from Oaxaca to Seattle. And for some reason, I had to stop in Dallas on this route. Like, it was just part of the route. I had to change planes. And for some reason, it took me 2 flights to get to Dallas. So I get on in Oaxaca, and on the plane, I was in a mood like, I don't really want to talk to anybody, but I don't want to feel alone. Like I don't want somebody sitting next to me, but it'd be nice if somebody friendly sat like a chair away from me. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. I get on the first plane. That's exactly what happened. This woman comes on the plane, attractive woman. I'm on the window seat. She comes, there's a seat between us. She sits there. But I say hello or whatever, I'm friendly, and she doesn't say a word. And we go through this flight of wherever I'm going, from Oaxaca to, I don't know where it was, Houston or something like that. And I thought, well, I got exactly what I asked for, but like, gee, I would have been nice to have just a little bit of warmth. Okay, me being picky about asking the universe for what I want. I said, look, I just want some warmth, but I don't want to get into a conversation. Like, okay, I get on the next plane. I'm going to Dallas, okay? I'm like, this is what I want, okay? And so I get on the next plane. Again, an empty seat next to me. Somebody, again, an attractive woman actually sits down next in that seat. Again, kind of very cold. I'm like, what is going on here? Why am I getting exactly what I want, but not quite the way I want it? Okay, whenever I notice a pattern like this, like whenever it's like, okay, you'll see this, like if you start dating people and about the 4th partner, is like, why do they all have these traits? It's just like, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's something in me is resonating with that. What am I resonating with that I'm manifesting this situation twice? And again, it's like, okay, you think um, amplifies, grows, expands. So my thoughts are not in the right place. Okay. But it's not my thoughts that are in the right. What is my thinking here? I'm thinking of the experience I want. But there's another person involved in this. The other person in the other seat.
Yeah.
I said, well, if I want somebody who's friendly, but also respectful and non-intrusive, I need to be in a way that resonates with that. Well, how would I be? How would I be? So I'm literally in the Dallas airport, walking from one terminal to another. And as I'm walking, I'm having this conversation in my mind. I'm like, what just happened in these last 2 plane flights? Okay, I'm going to get on in Dallas. This is going to take me to Seattle. How do I want? It's a long flight. What do I want to feel? You know what? I want to feel happy about sitting the next people I'm sitting next to. And I want to feel like we're friendly, but really respectful of the boundaries. Okay, that's how I want to feel. But again, how do I want to feel? So if I want to feel that way, how do I need to be? I need to be friendly and respectful of boundaries. So I went, I got a cup of coffee, and like, I was just really, how are we doing? How's your day? I was really reaching out, like showing up for that person. And then there was a guy putting the trash away, and like, how you doing, brother? How's your day going? Oh, and we had this. I'm showing up and I'm being present with that person, and then I'm respecting that. I'm not going into just like, great, have a great day. Every person along the term are like, how you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Are things going okay for you? Okay. We're not going to a deep conversation. I'm not being intruded in your life, but I'm just showing up as a happy presence. And I got responded with, oh, yeah, great, wonderful. Oh, well, that's I'm tired. Okay, well, I hope that goes better for you. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. I get to my plane. It's in Dallas. It's going to Seattle. I don't even care where I sit. I am happy again. I have had all these wonderful interactions. I feel great. I am like, nothing can go wrong. I'm just in a wonderful place. Life is great. I'm good with whatever comes my way. And I get on the plane, and it's full. Like, it's just packed. Like, right? Just, there's not a seat available. And so I go to, I just start walking, and I'm just at this place, like, whatever. I just said, a seat will arise, whatever. And I'm maintain this, just maintain the energy. Open my heart, feel love, feel joy, feel love, feel joy, feel love, feel joy. I'm good. I'm happy. Just feel this, I feel this, I'm just radiating. 2 seats before this aisle, there was these 2 women with a seat empty between them. The woman on the aisle seat, I'm 2 aisles away, she stands up and she moves to the middle seat. And the only other seats are available on the way back of the plane. So I'm like, well, okay, I guess that's my seat. And I sit down and like, hey, how you doing? Great. Okay. So there's these 2 women now. Turns out they were friends and they're chatting. I'm like, oh, okay, they knew each other. We're going to see if the flight, okay. I'm good. I'm happy. Like, great. I'm happy. And then we start this conversation, and the conversation goes to, where are you from? We're in Dallas, remember? Oh, we're in Austin. We're in Austin. Oh, you're in Austin too. Wow. Okay. And then like we start talking about Austin, and then we just start chatting. Like, we have all these things in common, and then we start talking about this retreat in Santa Fe they went on, and we're starting talking about metaphysical things. This Seattle flight turns into this wonderful conversation that we kind of like stop, like they're doing their thing and I'm doing mine. And it's just enough, like, that was great. Okay, we get off the plane. See ya. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They got off in Alba. They were going to retreat in Santa Fe. For whatever reason, I picked the most horrible itinerary I could, like 5 airplanes to get to Seattle. So I'm thinking 2 planes. I get on the plane in Dallas. They're getting off in Albuquerque. That's right. We land again in Albuquerque. They get off. I continue to Seattle. And I thought that was awesome. Seats remain empty. Like, this is turning into the dream. I come back from Seattle a week later, okay? 7 days later, I'm on a red eye from Seattle back to Dallas. Did this happen? I might have had to stop in Albuquerque. Yeah, because something is very, very odd. So I guess I was getting back to Albuquerque. So I'm in Seattle. I stop in Albuquerque. The plane is empty because it's a red eye. Like there's like 10 people in the whole plane.
Hmm.
And who gets on the plane? These two women. And we look at each other like, that's weird.
What? For
Like
real?
we're on the same plane 7 days later. How wild! So plane is empty. So we had such good vibes. They came and sat next to me, and then we like, that's weird. Like, isn't that weird? And I said like, well, it's just one of these coincidences. Like, there's something bigger at work. Then they go and they tell me about this thing they went to in Santa Fe, this retreat, and all the metaphysical. That's what and all the metaphysical stuff. That's when they start telling me. They said, "Oh, we're going to this retreat now we're on the plane to Dallas, and we are like just vibing on all this amazing stuff that they learned at this retreat." And like, this is wow. And we are like, the three of us we're like just bonding, and we get off. Now we're in Dallas, and it's late. Like it's 1 a.m, and it's waiting for the flight for us all to go back to Austin. And we're like, well, let's find a wine bar. Let's find a place. And we're locked in arms, and we're skipping like Wizard of Oz. The three of us are, I'm literally, the three of us are skipping down the terminal together, like, blah, blah, blah. And then we get to talking. And then it's like, well, what do you do? One of the women, Jennifer, she said, well, I manage sales at the convention center. I said, oh, really? I think I have a sister-in-law who turns out my sister-in-law and her are extremely good friends.
No
And
way.
it's like, what do you mean? You know each other? Oh, yeah, we're great. Like, what are you talking about? Now, at this point, I'm like, okay, there's something bigger going. Remember, trace this all the way back to my bad attitude in Oaxaca.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 flights in, I changed my thoughts. And I use my thought, or I use the feeling I'm having as a signal to say, if you're not experiencing this in the world, shift your gaze, shift your thoughts. Well, what are the thoughts I want to be having? Okay, now be in resonance with that. Resonate with people. Now I get on this plane. Magically, a seat appears. Magically, I run into the same 2 women on the flight back. Magically, they happen to be in this retreat exactly with the kinds of things that I'm going through spiritually. And I said to Jennifer, why did you get up out of your seat, by the way, when I got on that plane? I said, did you see me coming? You were making room for me? She said, no, I didn't see you. Just something inside me, in my gut, said, I need to get up and move seats.
No.
This is
way.
one example. I can give you hundreds.
Yeah.
When you start to shift your focus, shift your thoughts, your reality will shift. Don't wait for the external world,
ChaCha, this is
Don't wait for the
wonderful.
external world to tell you
Yes.
what's real, because it's coming through the filter of your brain. You tell your brain, this is the reality, the part of reality I want to experience. Show me the magic. Show me the magic.
What is something that you want other people to know more about you?
Wow. I guess the thing that comes to mind is if it's just random, I don't know who is going to see this, and like, I don't know who knowing this about me, I would just say there's more to me than there appears. Because I believe that's what everybody believes in themselves. That you're not seeing the real me when you just see the surface. So if I represent something, it's just a view on that day, not all of me. And if I see you in a certain way, just you on that particular day, it's not all of you. And so I say, what I want people to know is, I really believe that we are all one. Like, really, the field is one. It's a oneness. And all of what these exercises and all this is just stuff for us to learn this in this incarnation. And it's this illusion of separateness that we're working through. And like Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home. So if you ever interact with me, I might have a good day or a bad day, but I'm just walking home like you're walking home. Let's just try to walk each other home with kindness.
Thank you so much for joining me today, ChaCha.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Enjoyed it thoroughly.
All right. Where, if something like that resonated with people, how can they reach out to you?
The best way is just go to the one touch point that I have, where I will just keep links to wherever else ways of getting a hold of me. And that's campos.org, campos.org. That's my last name. And by the way, I've had that domain probably since 1997 or something like that, 96, a long time. And I kept it hidden a long time. Like, not hidden, but just parked, because I didn't want people to find me. So I do want you to know that I'm a very private person, actually. I'm quite private. And this idea of becoming transparent, I've just come to a time in my life where I understand that my mission and my role, my dharma at this moment, is to not hide anymore. And I don't put myself out there because I want to be seen, but I put myself out there in case somebody needs to see me, because that's what I'm giving myself to. And so if you go to campos.org, you'll see certain parts of me, and you can reach out to me if any of this resonated with you, because this is what I'm drawn to do, to answer my calling, is to be seen and to gather the choir and to be transparent. And being transparent doesn't mean I give access to every part of my life. It just means I'm going to do something authentically, and not because I'm trying to sell something, but because I'm delivering a message of what I've lived and what I believe. And that is that we are all one. And it's not because I read it in the book. This is an experience you can have too. And when you have that experience for yourself, you cannot deny that you need to think bigger, dream bigger, and give yourself to joy. Just let it go. Let it go. And if you want to connect with me in that conversation, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
That was incredible. Awesome. You listened to the full episode. Your investment to a more calm, confident, and doubtless self. Now you can make a commitment to yourself and help others discover this podcast, simply by subscribing and following the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I hope to see you here soon again for the new episode dropping every other Thursday. Talk soon.